Adolescence, 9 years. Year 1127. Riders on the road. It is blistering hot today, even for the sun-parched land of Magra. As soon as you're done with your studies, you dash outdoors and out of the stuffy room. You and Thomas roll up your shirt sleeves, but it barely helps. You would gladly go shirtless had you only been in the company of other boys. But there are 3 girls in the yard today. They're doing the laundry in a big wash tub, whispering and giggling. If you could, you would gladly keep watching one of them at work. She has big eyes of deep blue, her dark hair is braided, and her plain grey dress is mended and patched all over. Her name is Sophia. She throws her head back a little when she laughs. The rays of sun are reflected in her eyes. You, Thomas, and the other boys keep telling silly stories, anything to make her laugh. Sophia. Oh, you sure love telling tales, Dariel. Oh, I remember this one time. But then Sophia hears a voice calling her home. She nods at you and runs across the street smiling. Her light step carries her forward, but her eyes are looking elsewhere. But then a stone on the road catches her foot. She stumbles and falls flat onto the dust. The street starts shaking from thundering of hooves. Riders appear on the road from around the corner. They bear the coat of arms that you recognize right away. A sable serpent blade upon a field of vert. It symbolizes the Melanthius dynasty, the family of your province's archduke. The horses dash forward, a lost wooden toy on the road cracks under their hooves. They will not slow down. They are the nobles, and the rest must make way for them. Sophia isn't in their way, just now starting to get back in. Sophia is in their way, just now starting to get back on her feet. Her mother is crying for her to desperately come back from behind the fence door. You freeze in terror. The riders surely see the girl. Are they going to stop, or are they going to trample her? In only a few moments, the beautiful girl will be toppled, trampled, and crushed. Sadly, we do not have the willpower to save Sophia from the horses, so we shall stay where we are. Oh, okay, wait, let me just timestamp, because I'm doing recordings for the YouTube videos. Wow, thank you oh so much for dropping on by. Let me just shout out good old Lily Tika over here. She's a wonderful... I mean, last I remember you were a Fox VTuber, but you... Well, Kitsune VTuber, but you've updated your model to have horns. So I know you're a necromancer. Vampire demoness? Well, I'm a vampire bat cat, so I guess you could say that we're slowly bumping hips in a, you know, platonic way, like, hey, we're friends now. It's kind of, God, that fell flat on its face harder than this girl's about to be trampled. You also arrived at quite the interesting moment, no less. But thank you for stopping on by, Raiders. My name is Dario Lulosvitz. I enjoy being a variety streamer, typically doing games and reading out little tidbits like this. I'm recording it for a YouTube video series as well that I'm doing on this game/narrative book. I don't really know what to call it. It's an interactive visual novel, really, I suppose. Anyway. So, oh, Yoko, thank you for resubscribing for tier 1. Thank you oh so much. You continue your loyalty card holding status, and I thank you oh so much for your support. What were you up to, Lily, before you pop on off? You have to go to the bathroom and have dinner. Okay, then. Have yourself an absolutely wonderful time. For those of you who don't know Lily Tika, she... Okay, so you did Phasmophobia and art. She is a very talented artist. She's made her own model in Vroid, like, continues to edit and improve it as time goes by. She had helped me out a lot as well when I was doing my thesis to develop a way of thinking as to how to tackle it. And it is partly in thanks of her that I was able to complete it. So she forever has my gratitude in that regard. But yes, and Holland78, thank you oh so much for the follow. You are now one of my wonderful guests at the Azure Window Boutique. Don't think of leaving, nobody does. So typically, like, I have the whole sound alerts thing and some little tidbits for when people raid. And thank you for the 100 bits as well, Yoko. I know you took this moment to slip them in, and I very much appreciate that. Yes, I'm never going to stop saying it either. So you better pop on by more often so I can tell people as to how wonderful you are. But yeah, I record these for YouTube, so that's why you're not hearing all of the sound alert and all of that jazz. So sadly, I'm going to edit this out so that it's as seamless as possible for you know, the people watching, so I don't just, like, you know, lazily slap on an entire VOD onto YouTube. So yeah, so it's easier for people to enjoy, and the ones that enjoy watching on YouTube can have like half an hour here, half an hour in every couple of days. So it's just a way to kind of keep that going as well. But yes, thank you oh so much once again for the raid. I hope that your viewers will enjoy the voice acting ability that I like to do for the characters in this. Enjoy your dinner and have yourself a wonderful time lurking when you get back. So, I'll continue on with the game now. You stand frozen by the roadside, unable to look away as a cloud of dust covers the entire street. You feel as if a massive, maddened beast whipped into a merciless frenzy has just passed you by. You hear no screams, no cracking of bones, nothing but the deafening din of the hooves. Once the horses are gone and the dust settles, you finally see the road again, and the repulsive blob of blood, flesh, and bone left on it. You can still see traces of Sophia in that mess, the dark hair, the remains of her dress, but it is no longer her. Sophia's earthly remains slowly dissipate and melt into the air. Her mother's eyes are filled with grief as she watches. She haunches over and slowly walks back into the house. You can still hear the riders far, far away down the road. None of them even bother to look back. Your friends walk away at a loss for words. You make your way home, dazed by what you have seen. You are still dazed as you retell these events to Mother, unable to look up from the floor. After a moment of silence, she embraces you and calms you down. Lydia Brante. Poor girl. What a terrible, painful death. But you must know that it was not her true death. By the twins' mercy, we're all given enough time in this world. Should you die before your time, you will be brought back by their grace. For 3 times they will rescue you from a terrible fate, but the 4th death is true and final for all. Every loss of a life we were granted at our birth is but a heavy blow to us. But the gods told us not to mourn a lesser death. Everybody will keep on living as though nothing ever happened, even Sophia's parents. Their family is poor and they have no family crypt like we do. When the girl's soul comes back, her body will be reborn in the church with all her wounds healed. Do not mourn her, my son, but thank the twin gods for their justice. You see Sophia by her house a few days later and she looks completely fine, without so much as a scratch. The other children tell you that her parents now forbid her to leave the yard after dying such an early first death. You call out Sophia's name. She looks at you briefly, then walks back inside. Sophia will never talk to you again. Year 1128. Fall, soil, and gunpowder. Sophia's disappeared after a terrible incident with the horses. Her friends gossip that her parents sent her off to serve at a rich noble dynasty. You haven't seen each other since that day, but you still remember Sophia's eyes, the sunlight shining in them. But no matter what, life goes on. You are 10 years old now. Your studies continue and you are learning more about the land you live in. Anizote is an ancient city in the imperial province by the name of Magra. All the soil in Magra was turned to ash eons ago, scorched by magic during the rebellion of Duke Charmelandias. The magical arts are all but gone now, but the scorched earth has remained barren and infertile ever since. Since then, the entire province has been laid barren, tormented by cold and scorching winds in the equal measure, with few precious plants taking root on their own. All fertile land in Magra is bought elsewhere, all brought here by an endless caravan of carts and carriages. To pay for food and soil, the cities of Magra became skilled in many trades, primarily mining and digging for metals and stone. Last fall, there was an explosion just outside the city, followed by clouds of thick smoke. The first such incident frightened the citizens, but then explosions and smoke became an everyday occurrence. Soon, everyone grew used to it. Father explains that the miners are using a new invention called gunpowder. It makes it easier for them to reach the precious stones and metals buried deep within the earth. Then, one day, a thunderous explosion rocks the city, and black, billowing smoke covers the houses. People are stuck in their homes, all windows tightly shut. The air is impossible to breathe. Nathan coughs all the time. Gloria and you only cough when nobody's watching. If mother hears it, she'll make you inhale those hot herbal vapors just like Nathan. It takes 2 days for the black smoke to dissipate. People pour out onto the streets to meet their friends. Thomas is eager to share everything he knows about this incident with you. Thomas Guerrero. They took lots of burnt-up people to the city temple. Mom told me she was helping the healers. There are many rumors. Some claim it was the work of a beast stirred from its slumber, while others say it's the surviving witches that continue to threaten the order in the Empire with their accursed powers. But as for you, you patiently wait for Father to come back home, and then you'll ask him about it. Father spends day and night working at the prefecture, while Mother spends all her time in a prayer. It takes a full week for Father to finally return home, and his almost completely spent. You muster enough courage during dinner to ask him what happened outside the city. Father raises his head, his face a bleak, weary mask, and starts muttering his proclamation. It's almost as if he doesn't see you. Robert Brante. It's the mine outside the city. They were trying to get to a vein of ore. There was an explosion. The mine caved in, and a black smoke started flowing. Many workers died there. It was all because Count El Velasco, who owns the mines, wanted them to start mining that vein before they were ready. Some of the workers weren't even reborn. Perhaps the twins thought their final time had come. The prefecture has been inundated with complaints from families that have lost their breadwinners, asking the judges for help. Many people also lost their cattle to the black smoke. Count El Valsacchio blames the gunpowder for the disaster. The prefecture and the newspapers just repeat whatever he says. But it's plain old greed and tyranny of noblemen that are to blame. Why is the welfare of our province always paid for with commoner lives? Then, without warning, he grows silent again. You keep thinking about it for days. Can a human life really end so easily? A single moment of bad luck, and you die, only to re-emerge from the temple or the family crypt with a new black mark on your arm. Or worse, you remain where you fell, dead, never to be reborn again, ever. A reduction in order. However, the wealth of Magra has increased to affluence. During lunch, Father tells you to stay home in the evening and prepare to meet some important guests. Your elder brother Stephen will return home by dinner tonight. Joining him will be your grandfather, Gregor Brante, as well as a noble friend of the family. You're excited about your brother's return. It has been years since you last saw him. How has he changed during his years away from home? You and father await the guests anxiously. The doorbell rings. 3 people are standing outside. Grandfather is the first to come in, naturally. He has not changed a bit since his last visit, still eyeing the house with contempt, looking for any reason to demean it. Grandfather is followed by a stately young man dressed in a jacket embroidered in silver, whom you barely recognize as your brother. Stephen casts a glance at your threadbare clothes, your dirty fingernails, and smirks. The last to enter the house is a personable gentleman with a worn-out, wrinkled face. You have heard a lot about this man from father and grandfather. He is Baron Augustine L. Bourne, Stephen's uncle, a family friend and the province's prefect, which means that he is the head judge and thus father superior. Sir L. Bourne smiles lightly and offers you his hand. Augustine L. Bourne. Well, this must be your younger son, Dario, yes? You have your father's eyes, young man. Father bows slightly to grandfather and Sir L. Bourne, but there is a moment of quiet when Stephen's turn comes. Father reaches out to him awkwardly, expecting an embrace. There's a question in Stephen's eyes as he looks at grandfather. The old man shakes his head almost imperceptibly. Stephen Brante. We noblemen oughtn't to put our emotions on public display, father, not even after a lengthy separation. There is no embrace. Instead, Stephen nods to father curtly. He responds in kind, his face devoid of emotion. After the greeting, you proceed to the sitting room. L. Bourne is the first to enter. He kisses mother's hand, and Gloria's too, and tussles Nathan's hair after he sees him hiding by the table. Grandfather acknowledges them with a glum nod. Stephen Brante. Greetings, Lydia Brante. I remember you were kind to me when I was a child. And you must be Nathan. You could barely walk when I saw you last. Your elder brother ignores Gloria completely. Not even a greeting. You proceed to the dining room in a dignified manner and take your seats. The dishes smell delicious, but they merely punctuate the overwhelming tension at the table. Elbourne is the only one with a friendly smile on his face. Augustine Elbourne. This dinner is splendid, Lydia. Did you choose the dishes yourself? You have a truly refined palate. It warms my heart to know that Stephen spent his early years with you. Womanly care always does a child good, no matter the estate. Your fork freezes in the air halfway to your mouth. You expect many things from a nobleman of the sword, but words of praise for a low-born woman are not one of them. You cast a glance at grandfather. He looks like he's about to choke on his own words. Gregor Brante. It would do my grandson more good to stay at boarding school amongst his equals. Augustine. Please, Gregor. Parenting is no less important. Nothing can replace a mother's love. I cannot deny it. It saddens me greatly that my late sister could not be there to raise Stephen. But there was still a family for him, and he was surrounded by love. How could that be bad? And besides, his father was by his side all the while. A father's example is always the best. After all, Robert earned the judge's rank the same way you did. Your grandson will surely follow in your footsteps. And who knows, perhaps even the younger men of the Brante family will contribute to the... You clumsy, low-born cretin! Everyone is startled by the sudden outburst. Grandfather's face turns red. He is glaring at a younger lady servant, holding a pitcher over a glass. Stephen is sitting right next to her, dabbing a napkin on a fresh stain on his jacket. Begone this instant! The lady servant runs away, leaving the pitcher on a small table by the door. After a quiet moment, Elbourne smiles again. It appears the servants have left us, yet dinner is far from over. Worry not, uncle. There are enough commoners at this table to keep us served with food and drink. Stephen glares at Gloria across the table. She's sitting right next to you. She shrinks down and haunches over under his gaze. Father furrows his brow. Mother covers her mouth with a trembling hand. Grandfather sneers. Stephen's gaze does not move. The silence does not last far long. Then she starts to rise from her chair. If the Brante gentlemen so wish it. Your hands clench into fists under the table. How can he bring himself to humiliate his own family, his own mother and sister like this? It's all grandfather's doing. Stephen could not even bring himself to embrace father without his permission. And yet they are noblemen, and they have the right to act this way. If there is any way this dinner can become even more unbearable, you do not wish to see it. Or you can choose to insult our brother, step out of line and insult Stephen for what he has done. However, we'll develop bad blood with him. Make small talk over dinner. You try to act like nothing happened and make small talk with the guests. Nobility increased and Gregor Brante relations increased. Join Gloria in her plight. You rise from the family table and help your sister wait on the family. I'm curious to see what things are like if we continue to increase our relations with Gregor. Moving stiffly, Gloria takes the wine pitcher and starts refilling the glasses. You turn away from your sister, eager to distract yourself from her presence somehow. So you ask Sir Elborn how you may contribute to the family legacy. He turns to you, clearly relieved. Your eagerness to support the family betrays your noble bearing, young man. It is simple. Always remember that you are a Brante. Your family has a path of its own, and you must follow in the footsteps of your father and grandfather and learn the judge's trade. Keep asking questions about the life and duty of a nobleman, trying to not look as Gloria continues serving the table. Sir Elborn is eager to explain. A nobleman must always live with honor in mind, but the imperial law stands higher. There are free lots and free estates. Naturally, they can never be equal, yet the law must govern those who live within each estate. You have a hard time understanding some of the things the perfect Magra says, but his intellect is stunning. The dinner ends. Gloria takes away the last of the dirty dishes and disappears quietly from the dining room. Sir Elborn cordially bids you farewell. Grandfather and Stephen are still as haughty as ever, but they are clearly pleased. Pleased with what, you wonder? The dinner, or Gloria's humiliation? You go to sleep. Your sister is sobbing in the next room, loud enough that you can hear. "11 years, year 1129. Hot, dry winds sweep through the city from the barren lands around it. The noble residents of Anisote prefer to remain in their chambers, while the commoners huddle in tents with the shade of the silver tree. You are on an errand right now. Your father wrote a letter to a noble acquaintance, and you are to deliver it. Thomas, the boy down the street, is tagging along. The two of you are inseparable now. The errand is an easy one, so you decide to take this opportunity to loiter around the part of Anisote where the nobles live. So here you are in the middle of the city square, resting on ancient brickwork by the old fountain in a merciful shade of the gargantuan silver tree. Thomas is by your side, lazily slouching on the edge of the fountain's basin. Thomas: it's a hard life for commoners like you and me. Either you break your back in a workshop day and night hoping someone will buy your goods someday, or you become a manservant to some noble. You never get a chance to enjoy your life. This is our lot, you remind him. We work and endure and suffer. But Thomas waves your words away. Yeah, I know that already. Mother keeps drilling that stuff into me. We must be humble, our strength is patience and persistence, so yeah, I say. But I want to make my fortune no matter what. So how ain't that living by my lot, I ask you? But the lots, they ain't easy. Let's take you, for example, a Brante. Your father's a nobleman. But even if that didn't make you one, just look at your hands. You've never had to work as hard as me, but we have the same lots, so we're supposed to suffer the same. Look at your father. He's a judge. He toils at the prefecture day and night doing his judging, and he's a noble. I've never seen an Arknian work as hard as he does. You shrug. The Arknians are a different race. The books say they were born to rule over humans. They were never commoners, always nobles of the sword by birth. They founded the empire after subduing all the human kingdoms on the continent. Humans will never be their equals. Arknians always better, smarter, stronger, and their skin is a noble shade of blue. If the books are to be believed, of course. You have never seen one yourself.